Hello, my friends. Welcome to another daily episode of Bobby's Popcast, where I talk about all things pop culture, all the celebrity gossip. If the celebrity gossip was an orange, I would wring it fresh and squeeze out all the juice for you so you could have it served up fresh with your French toast or hash browns. Also, just going to get the elephant out of the room. I just got done with a bike ride, and I bought this at a thrift store because I was going to try to be Craven the Hunter. I don't know if you've seen Craven the Hunter. He's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who has much phenomenal better body shape than I do. So I think for Halloween, I'm going to be craving Taco Bell the Hunter. But I digress. So let's get into it. Ben Affleck says he would love another shot to be with Jennifer Garner, but he realized the time is not right because he's fresh off that divorce from somebody named Jennifer Lopez, and she's got a boyfriend now, and reportedly she's really happy with it. But I've always thought they had something special because they just seemed right together, but Ben was into alcohol and smoking and all that stuff, and Jennifer is a clean living kind of girl, and I don't know. I'm always pushing for eighth time's a charm to get back together. This is super cool. Macaulay Culkin, you know him from Home Alone. He's been in a slew of other projects. He's one of my favorites. Fun fact, Macaulay Culkin and I are both the same age. So when I was a kid watching Home Alone, I was like, I could totally do that as well. Anyway, Macaulay Culkin, the older Culkin brother, was overcome with emotion when his brother Kieran, who's also, by the way, in Home Alone, he plays that snotty little kid who drinks like Pepsi and pees on the sheets. Anyway, when Kieran won an Oscar on Sunday, he said he was overcome with joy. He says, quote, "That's the only thing I watched. True story, I cried." And I was like, I'm going to see you later. So I just love it when brothers support brothers and winning Oscar statues and all that good stuff. That's such a sweet story. So I'm no psychic or fortune teller, but I just have a feeling that the new Scream movie, Scream 7, is going to be a nightmare because they've lost a lot of the original cast from the reboot. Jenna Ortega, Melissa Becerra, I forget her name, but I love her. She's a phenomenal actress. Over some stuff, some comments that were made. Anyway, they're bringing back the older cast, so like Neve Campbell, and this just in, David Arquette, who plays Dewey, will return for Scream 7, even though he was killed off in Scream 5, the first version of the reboot. So he'll be joining Matthew Lillard, who's also back, Scott Foley, who are also coming back despite all of their characters being dead. So I think Scream 7 is going to be taking place in the afterlife because how are you going to make that make sense? I don't know. It's movie magic. We'll see what happens, but I'm still going to go see it because I love Scream. I love this story. Will Ferrell says John C. Reilly made him break character one time during filming Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Fun fact, Ricky Bobby is one of my nicknames when I first got into radio because that movie was popular. Anyway, it's the scene where when Will Ferrell is in a coma because he got in that accident and he thought he was on fire, which is not true. Anyway, John C. Reilly tells him he once posed for Playgirl under the name Mike Honcho. Evidently, that was like totally off script and they just ad-libbed it and they kept it in. And I think that is freaking hilarious. Here's a little bit of a Debbie Downer story. I didn't even know this. Dolly Parton, I love her. She's an icon and a legend. Her and her husband, Carl Dean, have been together for quite some years. Get this, her husband passed away on Monday, and, condolences have been pouring in, and Tanya Tucker says she remembers meeting Carl when she was like 15 or 16, and, the fact that Dolly's hurting is not good for anybody because she's America's national. I feel like Dolly Parton has replaced Betty White as like America's beloved character. Anyway, so I'm just sending thoughts and prayers out to Dolly Parton, and I just love her. I have got to tell you this story. I don't know if you like Joe Exotic or anything from the Tiger King empire. I think Tiger King on Netflix is what saved a lot of us during COVID and the pandemic because we were all just like, is this real stuff? Anyway, Joe Exotic is in prison for trying to kill Carol Baskin. I could do a whole podcast dedicated to Joe Exotic, Carol Baskin, and the epicness that is Tiger King. Man saw tiger, tiger saw man. I digress, though. Fun fact, I want to real quick story. Squirrel. I did actually get a chance to interview Carol Baskin on my radio show, and she was a lovely personality. So just throwing that out there. Anyway, Joe Exotic's husband, Jorge Marquez Flores, was deported 2 days before his birthday. Jorge was serving time for being in the U.S. illegally. Joe wants to raise $5 million to bring his husband back. He says, Jorge has no drug violence on his record at all. His only mistake was being born in a country of violence and poverty. Good luck with that one, Joe. And I'll end Bobby's podcast with a story about Meghan Markle, the Queen's granddaughter-in-law, the one who stole Harry from his royal heritage. I just love a good chance to do a British impersonation, but I digress. So here's the story. Here's the thing. I know people either love her or hate her. I personally love her because I think she's pretty. She married Prince Harry. I think they did something very, very different from the royal family. They broke out of the confines of control and all that stuff. But that's a whole different podcast that we'll talk about. Anyway, critics are slamming Meghan Markle's new Netflix cooking show With Love, Meghan, because they say it's awful and pointless and filled with narcissism, self-promotion, and lack of substance. I have to shout out one reviewer. This is from the Independent newspaper. They said, With Love, Meghan is a 1-star review show. Queasy and exhausting. That is so mean. That's probably kind of like this podcast. As always, thank you for watching or listening or streaming another episode of Bobby's Podcast. I'm so grateful to have had Woody Powers, my old co-host from Peak FM, on the last few episodes, and we had so much fun laughing, so I'm going to be begging and, harassing him to be back on the podcast because it's just fun to laugh with him. And I'll have a slew of other guests. I've got some people in the works, so be on the lookout for that. If you have any guest ideas, feel free to shoot them in the comments. Thank you for watching another episode. You can get me at Bobby's Podcast on all major socials. I'm on streaming. I'm on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all that good stuff. Thank you for watching. Once again, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for putting up with my Craven the Hunter Temu version costume. And by Halloween, I hope to have abs so I could actually flaunt this bad boy.